welcome to that Peter Crouch podcast with me, Peter Crouch, Chris Stark and Statman Dave, with me as usual. All right, boys?
Yeah, all right. Yeah. I know we're getting into relegation today. And obviously being a Watford fan, touchy subject slightly.
You must have been pretty resigned to the fact that it was going to happen, though.
Yeah. Also, I think with being a Watford fan, obviously I love being in the Premier League, but you sort of, I don't know, a lot of my time being a fan of Watford, we have been in the Championship. So it's not totally unexpected. It's a frustrating season. But I'm intrigued to know your experiences of being relegated and perhaps some insight that you can give that will make me feel slightly better about this situation.
I don't think that any of my insights going to make you feel better, Chris. I'll be honest with you. I think I got relegated 3 times. Bizarrely, in some, 2 of the circumstances in really good seasons for myself personally. So it's weird kind of dynamic. My first season in professional football was at QPR. For me, getting in the first team was a massive achievement. I loved it. I had a really good season. I was the club's got top goal scorer. I'd won Player of the Year there, but we just missed out on, staying up, and we got relegated, and it was devastating because I was connected to the clubs. I was there from 9 years old, and made my debut there. Jerry believed in me. Of the fans were a lot of my friends at the games, and it hit me hard, but I was too young to sort of understand what the magnitude of what I had on clubs. So I think the club was in administration, and I was seen as an asset at the time. And they bought me for 60 grand and sold me for 1.2 in that same season to Portsmouth. And that money sort of helped rebuild the club again, really. And I think at that time it was a lot of money, and I went, and I was gutted, really, to leave because I loved it there, but went on to bigger and better things.
Sometimes as a fan, you sort of see players that get relegated and you think that they sort of pretend that they care, and they don't really. It seems to me that you're talking about actually really caring, but then leaving for almost the betterment of the club in the financial situation.
To further my career, I was staying in the Championship, which I was at the time. Someone was buying me for a lot of money. The owners didn't own the club anymore. It was people in who were basically looking at every single detail. So there was no option other than to sell me at that time. But when you're talking about players not caring and stuff, it would like that leads me to my relegation with Stoke, and that was the one that really hit home. Because that was devastating in lots of ways, because I was old enough to understand the pain that the whole city goes through, not just the players. There's the players, obviously. Then you've got the management staff, but then you've got the secretary, the girl that works in the ticket office, the kit man who's been there 20, 30 years. Even the welfare of the whole city, like the money that it generates when big teams like Manchester United and Liverpool fans come into the area, and being a Premier League club, and the sponsorship money that affects the whole community. And when you see it firsthand and you're involved in it, the devastation is huge, and you feel responsible for it, because what you do on the pitch has had the impact on that such massive community.
Do you ever see it how it is from like my point of view, where you see players that aren't really caring, and what happens in those situations? And is it just that you resign yourself to relegation, or did you have experiences where you would have to go and speak to players and sort of try and get them to think the same way as you?
Chris, it was honestly devastating watching it unfold that season, because I was a bit part player at that time. I was having an impact off the bench, and I was playing a certain amount of games, but I'd seen us go from the best dressing room in I've almost ever been involved in, to one of the worst, and that was culminated in relegation. And it wasn't as if the talent had got any worse. If the talent had got much better, in fact, and everything that Stoke was associated with, which was winning ugly and being difficult to beat, was gone. We were a nice footballing team that rolled over easily. And it was like chalk and cheese from when I arrived to when we went down. And it was devastating to see. And you talked about players not caring. I got that vibe. You could never put it on them. Well, we did privately. But I could never say, because you don't know. You don't know if they're maybe they are giving everything, you know what I mean? But like, to me, it felt like there was players, and you know, it's easy for me to sit back here and go like, I wasn't part of that. I was part of a team that got relegated, and I'm involved in that. But there was times where there was certain individuals that were disgrace in that at that time. Some of the things they did, some of the things that were done, some of the things that were said, some of the actions, some of the things I saw in that year of the relegation at Stoke was something that I never saw in 20 years of football.
Wow.
At what point did you realise you were in the battle?
Pre-season, there was warning signs.
Pre-season?
Honestly, the pre-season, there was warning signs. We'd signed a few players and, you know, little things were changing and they weren't getting, you know, we'd lost the characters or enough of the characters that were like, what the fuck's he doing? Hold on a minute. Pull him in and, you know, that's not what we do here. You know, if you've just been signed, you might do that elsewhere, but here we don't do that. We'd lost lots of those people. And listen, I feel, I look at myself first as well and think, you know, maybe, you know, I was not soft, but like, you know, maybe it was too late by the time that I realised that, you know, because I wasn't starting games, you know, it's harder for me to go in, although I'd had a good career and people respected me, you know, it was slightly harder for me to go in and start screaming. And I'm not that type of character anyway. So, but then when it sort of got away from us, you know, when everyone started to scream and shout at each other, it was too late. But those warning signs were in pre-season. I always remember one pre-season game where, no, listen, I'm not naming names now because what's gone is gone. But then one of the players had walked off the pitch because someone didn't pass to him. And like it's like a 10-year-old stuff.
Yeah.
Like I was open mouth going, this is obviously behind closed doors game. No one's watching it. But like, just to walk off and go, no one's pulled him off. No one's told him.
No one's passing him. I mean, it is literally 5-year-olds.
Literally,
They're
but
not
like
playing
that,
with me.
these were the types of things that I was seeing. I was going, it was mind-boggling, and then it all goes back to, and then when we do get relegated, and all the people, everyone suffers, and you know it's the players just, you know, you can just get off and like.
There was a disjoint between the actual impact on Stoke, on the community from these players.
Yeah, because
there was no real connection.
Well, they'd lost everyone from the community, you know what I mean? And like, that's true of a lot of teams now. You know, not everyone's got homegrown players. You can't get that. But what you did have was players that I felt were a better representation of what Stoke City was really.
So in that season, because you are part of it, right? Did anyone have a go at you?
Do you know what it was like? It felt like it was like whispering in little groups. Do you know what I mean? It was like a group there, a group here, and a group here, and everyone bitched about everyone.
Very fractured.
Yeah, you know, and like you see it now, you know that's going on in certain dressing rooms now. Yeah, it felt like it was very fractured, and it was little groups, and everyone was whispering behind each other's back and not getting anywhere. But yeah, listen, you know, can't dwell on it too long but that really pissed me off that year of football.
Which 3 players would you take with you in a relegation battle if you were to do it again?
Yeah, I mean, all the boys that were sold and we lost for that battle. That was John Walters, Glenn Whelan, and Robert Hoof, or Ryan Shawcross was there. So, but Ryan was injured quite a lot. So, listen, you know, Hoof, Whelan, Walters. If we'd have had those 3, I think we'd have stayed up.
Boys, one of my least favourite phrases in football is the phrase "too good to go down." Not often associated with Watford from a personal experience, but I just think it's a phrase which is arrogant in a lot of ways. It's often so-called bigger teams too good to go down, and the truth of it is they're too shit to stay up.
There's been loads over the history of the Premier League, right?
They were too shit to stay up.
Too shit to stay up. Crouchy, first up, have you got any suggestions?
So if you're just saying too good to go down, right? That's so I would say the West Ham team of, I'm not sure what year it was, but Joe Cole, Michael Carrick, David James, Might have Freddie Canute in there.
I
Freddie
remember
Canute in
going
there.
and seeing them.
That-
I remember them.
He's a team that shouldn't have gone down.
I remember being in the stand watching that team celebrate, and you look at where they all went. It's insane.
Got two other teams that I want to speak about. I did it by team value. I'm boring like that. But like, how much?
No, but I think that's often what it is. I think there is a club that is a rich club. I mean, you've even seen it to a certain extent with Everton and chat about any of those teams that could go down. It's like sometimes too good can get confused, and that's why I say too shit, because I think like too good is actually marinated in a bit of arrogance sometimes, which is actually these clubs have spent so much money.
That doesn't come from the club though, is it? Like
No.
that's a pundit. That's pundit speak. So like they're too good to go down. That's like a pundit saying they've spent loads of money. They'll be fine.
Question for you though, Crouchy. Right, we're halfway through the season. Let's say at Stoke, Chris is the manager. He comes out and says we're too good to go down. What do the players think?
I think you buy. It depends if we like Chris as a manager or not.
Okay.
And if we all like him, if we're all behind him, we think, yeah,
We are. Let's go. We're galvanising the team.
He believes in us. But if we don't like Chris, we go, what's this twat on about?
Okay. What happens if Chris comes out now and says we're too shit to stay up?
Manager comes in, you're all sat there just looking up, waiting for that quote, that thing that's going to click you into gear to
Something
keep you up.
special from the
Something's
manager.
got to keep you up. And the manager looks in your eye and goes, Crouchy, you are too good to go down. Other manager comes in, Crouchy, you are too shit to stay up. Like, get a fucking move on. Like, it's which one works?
Well, that's no. Well, the too shit to stay up is not gonna fucking. That's not gonna work. Is it?
As I said it didn't really work the same. I was trying to motivate you.
Imagine a new gaffer came in, just took over like Lake Doors are going to try and keep us up, right? And he comes in, his first speech is, "You are too shit to stay up."
I think it works with different groups, right? I think the defenders need the too shit. I think the forwards need too good.
No, but maybe it was the way I delivered it, because if you think about it, right, if I'm a manager and goes, you're too good to go down, just keep going, you're going to be fine. Too shit to stay up.
I'm going to prove him wrong.
You need to,
Prove me right.
You need to start putting in like you
We
are.
need some more goals.
They're in the relegation zone for a reason, right? And if you come in and go, "You're too shit to stay up," they're going to go, "Oh, we are crap. We're going straight down."
Well, yeah, but I think saying you're too good to go down gives you a false confidence, because you're not, because you're in a relegation battle.
You know, when Harry came into it, like up Southampton that year, right? I was in and out of the team, and he came in and he said, why are you not starting? You and Kevin Phillips are going to be my front two for the rest of the season, and you're going to fire us out of this problem, right?" Granted, we didn't do that, but I scored a lot of goals, and I felt a lot of confidence, and I grew I scored a lot of goals after that speech, and I personally felt better.
From a fan's point of view, it's kind of like you want players to be devastated about being relegated. Well, you want them in the relegation battle to keep the club up. But I suppose as you enter in this sort of thought of relegation, you can't help but personally start thinking about your own personal contract, your personal situation.
You don't plan to go down ever, do you? You know, so it's sort of small print in many ways. So, you know, traditionally now, a team will have a 50% pay cut, but a lot of players might have signed contracts long before that came in. And let me say this, there's a lot of rustling of papers from people going back through their contracts and thinking, if we do, you know, when the realisation is like, we may get relegated, is,
So you suddenly have to call the lawyer.
or am I getting half? Like all of a sudden, you know, especially with the big clubs, that you don't really think about it. When you're signing for a new club, you're thinking about the top end of the league, you know, not thinking about the bottom of the league. And yeah, of course, everyone's got representation, and you know that should be looked after. But clubs usually now specify on that, and you can't really argue with it. You're not going into a new club and, you know, saying I'm not having that in my contract, because you're not expecting to go down.
Have you never been part of a team? This is super naive, probably way to view it, where the team, everyone's got to agree to the same thing, as in when you get relegated. Because I would think that there's a major issue in the fact that some players are disproportionately affected by relegation.
Yeah, and I think there's some players, I've seen it firsthand, that haven't been cut, for instance, or there's some players who've done so well in that relegation season, they've been offered a new deal and not have to have that 50% pay cut like the rest of the players. And that is difficult to manage.
I think that's, again, the whole team togetherness, like that's a massive problem, right? That you're dealing with all these personalities and you're dealing with a different way. You're not dealing with a sort of like mindset of everyone is in the same, we're all in the same boat. You're already fracturing the group by the contract. The other thing is,
that's exactly what I was wondering. Like, does that have much of an effect?
And
are you aware of other people's detail to that level?
Yeah,
you are.
Not
it's interesting.
Not completely like players speak. There's no getting away from that. Like players in the dressing room do talk. Not necessarily all about how much they are earning, but then there'll be rumours as well. And for some reason, newspapers and agents and it's not necessarily the player, but the agent will speak, and they'll speak to other agents, and they'll get the gist of what players are earning and whether or not they've got these clauses in their contracts. And then that spreads, and the rumours start, and then everyone's talking about it, and yeah, it can be difficult, but that's what a football club is now. There's so much money in the game that it's difficult to manage at the bottom end and the top end. If Salah, for instance, gets a new contract now, right, 5-year deal, and he's on 150 grand a week more than Van Dijk, that can be fractious. Like why is Salah on so much more than Van Dijk?
I felt we've done quite a lot on relegation today. I can't say it's made me feel much better about being relegated. That said, I'm quite looking forward to the Championship. I enjoy it.
I want to bring some positivity here, though, before we leave. And I've looked at some data. So obviously we analyse stuff, we look at things. And there's some good stats, Chris, and there's some bad stats. First and foremost, 25 out of the 91 teams relegated from the Premier League to the Championship or the Division 1 have come back stronger.
The next season?
The next season.
You do have to go down to go up.
It's the only way it's possible.
That sounded more profound in my brain.
I was going to think of a Five song. Get down.
No, it's Chumbawamba, isn't it? I get relegated. I get promoted again. Like, you're never going to keep me down. Like, it's that.
I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Yeah. That's what Watford need to do, a Chumbawamba.
Fucking hell. What the hell? Watford needs to do a Chumbawamba.
So that's, anyway, if you are a team that is affected by relegation...
Just think, you could do a Chumbawamba.
Yeah. I wish you all a Chumbawamba for you and your team.
Crouchy, do you wish that Chris had said that to you on one of the relegations?
Yeah, listen, I going down is such a difficult thing, but always remember you could do a Chumbawamba.